What is going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. As you guys know, we've been doing a lot of GTO build series stuff and getting that thing ready to get that on the road. Still waiting on the Hellcat to come home, but in the meantime we figured we'd work on a different project we've been wanting to get done. So as you can see here behind me, this is our open car trailer that we've been using to move the cars around and stuff. We got it not all that long ago. It's in decent shape. We traded a golf cart I had for it. The only real stuff that we have done to it so far is I threw a new set of tires all the way around, and I went ahead and threw some backup lights, just some little LED pods on there, and they work well. But we were looking at it the other day, and I was gonna tape this off and just paint this with like a sandpaper textured like paint, so that it had more traction and just to clean it up a little bit because the paint's getting a little faded. So then we started thinking about painting the whole trailer and just cleaning the thing up in general. So then we came up with the idea of turning our wood deck trailer into a steel deck trailer, because I've always wanted it to be a steel deck. I was kind of disappointed when we got this one that it was a wood deck and not a steel deck. So we actually ran into a pretty good deal the other day, and I messaged the guy and we went up there and took a look at it today, and we ended up getting a bunch of metal so that we can complete this project. We grabbed some other stuff while we were up there. We ended up getting a nice little bandsaw, which will be cool for making piping and all kinds of cool stuff. He threw in that table, and then we've got 5 sheets of 4x8 1/8-inch thick steel. As you guys know, steel prices are through the roof right now. We've been wanting to make a wind slash like rock guard for the front of this trailer for a while now, and it's just been super expensive to try to get new metal, and I wasn't really sure that I wanted to keep the trailer because it was a wood deck. But now that we were able to get our hands on all the metal that we need to do this, we're gonna make the wood deck, we're gonna turn that into a solid steel deck all the way down. We're gonna weld it on the sides and stuff, do some tacks, and then we're gonna go ahead and right up front here, we're gonna make probably 4-ish feet tall of a rock guard, so that when the truck's towing the car and stuff, it's gonna block some of the wind and rocks and debris and all that kinds of stuff, so that it will just help protect the car. So if you guys aren't already, please think about subscribing and ringing the bell. It'll keep you guys up to date on any videos that we put out, whether it's the Duramax, the Hellcat, or the GTO. So let's go ahead and dive right into getting this thing done. Alright guys, so we just got our 5 sheets of the 1/8-inch diamond plate that we bought out of the truck and onto our little trailer here. Got them down into the shade. It's freaking like 100 degrees today with a lot of humidity, probably like 90. But figured we might as well get started on the trailer project. We're gonna take some measurements and start seeing what we can do to try to get a straight cut out of this thing. We're gonna try a steel blade for a circular saw that we have. It's like a skill saw or whatever. I really think it's meant for wood, but we're gonna throw a steel blade on it and see what happens. I told you guys this saw is really made for wood, but we're trying to make it work for our metal. So Harbor Freight had the Hercules blade, which is this one right here, steel blade, and the arbor on that one was 5/8, so it worked for us. So that's what we're gonna try. We're hoping that it's gonna work out well. I guess we're gonna find out here in a second. Alright guys, so I don't think I really explained it to you. We're using that piece of like C-channel that we had as a straight edge, and we're measuring the distance on the saw from where the blade is to this guide right here, and then we're offsetting our C channel by that much to make it so that we get a nice straight cut using that as a guide. All right guys, so we are on our last piece. The last one we cut is actually right there, and that's going to be the one that we are going to use for the wind and like rock guard on the front of the trailer. This one is the last piece for the actual deck. We're cutting the I guess it'd be the width of the trailer, but the length of our sheet. We've been cutting them at 82 on the dot, obviously compensating for the blade and saw, and they've been working out pretty good. We've got some of them laid on here, as you can see. We've got 1, 2, and 3 already on here, and then we've got the one that's going to go vertically here for the rock shield already cut. This one is going to be the most cutting, the last one here, because it's narrower. I think it came to 2.5 feet on the dot. So we've got 3 full sheets, and then we're going to have roughly like half a sheet here in the middle. We measured it. We're going to cut it to 2.5 like I had mentioned, and then fit it in there and just weld them together. I've seen people do it multiple ways. You can put the short one up front, you can put the short one at the end, you can really put it anywhere you want. I've seen them split these two up here and put it there, but for us, we figured it would look the best if we did it in between the fenders, because you're not really going to see it from the sides. So that's what we went with. So we're going to go ahead and get this last piece cut, and then we can start figuring out what to do next. We went with the blade from Harbor Freight, the metal blade. It's a Hercules blade for steel, 7 1/4. It fit on our old school wood skill saw, and let me tell you, that thing cut all this metal with really not a sweat. I mean, it's a clean cut, super clean cut, doesn't put off a lot of heat, and it's still sharp after all these sheets. I mean, that's a nice cut. So I'm pretty happy with it, and they are like 27 bucks, so it's a super cost-effective way to cut a good amount of metal. We thought we were going to burn through a couple of them, but worked out pretty well for us. So let's go ahead and bring this sheet over to the trailer and get this thing on. All right guys, so as you've seen yesterday, we went ahead and got all of the flooring cut. So all of our 1/8 inch diamond plate is cut to size. It actually fits extremely well. We were really happy with how everything came out. But this morning we went ahead and made an executive decision. We were going to be leaving all of the wood decking underneath these sheets for now, and just do like 1 or 2 inch welds along the sides and weld them together and stuff, and make it so that we could cut the welds, get these things off come fall, get rid of the wood and reinforce it, and just go solid steel deck. But like I said, we made the decision this morning to take a ride up to Mid-City Steel, which is a steel supplier by us, and we went ahead and got a bunch of angle iron. We went with 2 inch by 2 inch 3/16 thick, and we've got 15 of them that are cut at 7 foot, and then 3 of them which are cut at 8 foot. So we're gonna go ahead and get all these sheets back off. We're gonna start ripping the decking up, and then start measuring and placing our support beams and get this thing done. So we're gonna go ahead and do it once and do it right and get this thing jammed out. Alright guys, so we're back out here to work on this thing again this morning. I think where we're going to start is we marked where most of our angle iron supports are going to go, so we're going to start grinding for those. And then I think as we go, we're also going to hit the rusty spots on the beams that we're going to be leaving those beams, but they're not high enough for us to use for supports for our sheet metal. So we're going to clean them up anyways, anywhere that there is rust, and then we're going to hit them with some heavy black brush on paint just to try to protect it. We're trying to make this thing as clean as we can while we have it apart. So we're going to go ahead and start doing that, and then we can finally start welding some braces in. Alright guys, so my memory card on the GoPro filled up, so I had to go put that upstairs, but we didn't get a whole lot farther than what you guys had seen. We ground where we had marked for all of our support bars all the way up. We cleaned up any rust spots we seen. We hit the old bars that are here with some paint quick. Got this edge cleaned up. Now what we're doing is going right down the line, measuring each bar to see where what we need to cut them to for each location. They're pretty close, but we've been getting them taking a measurement at each one just to make sure we're right on, and then we can grind it to fit perfectly. So what we're going to do right now is measure from here to that side on the inside, and then we'll go inside and cut the next piece of angle iron on the bandsaw. Pretty perfect. So we can go ahead and cut a bunch more and then come through, make them fit like perfect with the grinder, and then we can get ready to start welding. Not sure if we'll weld much tonight as it got kind of late on us already, but get as much done as we can and just keep it moving. Alright guys, we rolled the welder out. We've got all of our pieces cut, as you've seen. Pretty much every support we've got laid up about where it's going to go. While I played around with the welder with some scrap pieces to get that dialed in, Dad got this one set in. So we've got that one pretty much where it's going to be. So we're going to go ahead and tack her on there and get this thing stuck. Alright guys, so we are back out here and at it this morning. We've got a couple welded in last night, which you guys had seen. We got this one in place, that one's in place. We've still got a weld underneath it, but we're going to get them all in place and welded on this back side here where they need to be, so that once they're all in place, we can just go through and jam them out and get them all finish welded. I think what we're going to do next is we're going to skip up to this one. We've got that one where, this one. We've got this one where it needs to be. We'll weld that one in, and then we'll just keep working our way right up the trailer. So we got this beam in here pretty close. We're doing an inch overhang for the next plate, and then we've got an inch under this one. So we're gonna go ahead and tack this in place, and then it's almost impossible to get that side perfect and this side perfect at the same time. So what we've been doing is tacking one side and then fine tuning the other, and then we go in and finish weld it. So that's what we're gonna do right now. And like I said, we'll just keep working our way up and get this thing jammed out. Well, I'm an idiot. Forgot to turn the camera on, guys, sorry. But we welded that one in. I think it's coming out pretty good. Still using this little titanium MiG 170. Super happy with it so far. Got that one welded in too. Now we're gonna put another beam in here. We wanted to split the difference here, so we're gonna measure it and just split it in half, put the beam wherever that lands. And then we can take our shortest sheet and put it in here, and then figure out where that seam's gonna land and put that beam in, and we're just plugging right along here and working our way towards the front. It's coming out pretty good, so let's keep on getting stuff done and see how far we can get today. All right, guys, so we have got the trailer up in the air. We've got it about the height that we wanted. I think it's going to work out a lot better this way. We went ahead and pulled the sheets off and moved most of them forward so that now we can get under there comfortably and go up and finish weld all these beams in place. I think it's going to stiffen it up nicely and give us some nice supports for the sheets when we're ready to put those on and weld them up. So I'm going to set you guys up and I'm going to get to welding. As you guys seen, we got all the supports finished up. Now we've got the sheets, the first couple that go on here, the rear sheet, and then the one that goes between the fenders, which is our smaller one. And we went ahead and marked and then used the grinder to clean up a couple areas where we're going to be welding underneath to those supports to make sure that these don't like bow in the middle or lift up. Did the same thing on this one, basically crisscross sides to make it so we can get nice little welds everywhere to hopefully keep the floor nice and flat. No rattles, no warps, no nothing like that. So we're gonna go ahead and set these sheets on, and I think we're finally ready to start tacking them down and get these things welded on. All right, guys, so we've got our first sheet on here. We're gonna go ahead and start tacking this thing, then get underneath it and start tacking it down to the support. So like I said, it doesn't warp or anything or have a bow in it. And then we'll work on the next sheet and just work our way right forward. And then we'll go through and finish weld everything at the end. So we're gonna go ahead and start tacking stuff. All right, guys, so we got some of the bigger welds started. We've got a whole lot more welding to do on this thing. We got it going though. I'm pretty happy with how they're coming out. Then we've got a pretty decent sized weld running across. We've still got to finish it, but I think we're done for the night. All right, guys, so we are back at it again this morning. As you seen last night, we got a good little corner of that all welded up. We got all the welding underneath on this first panel done. Now we're moving on to this next one here, so that we can tack this one in place. I'll get underneath it, weld it to all of our beams, and then once I get that done, I can start working on welding the perimeter of all this stuff and the seam right there. And we can set this one on, mark it, and he can start grinding on it and getting it cleaned up, getting whatever type of coating this is off. The welder does not seem to like this coating at all. It must be some sort of paint or something. These sheets came from a big old factory that used to make camouflage for the military, so there's no telling what this stuff is. All I can tell you is none of the flap wheels or sandpaper likes taking it off at all. It's pretty miserable, but we're making it work. So we're gonna get this one all glued down, and then he can start cleaning that, and we can be on to our next panel and start getting this thing filled in. All right, guys, so we got the middle sheet here, our shortest sheet on, got it all tacked underneath to the braces. And now we're gonna go ahead and take our next big sheet, set it on here, mark it, pop it off, grind it clean, and do the same thing. And then I actually gotta run over to the welding store, get our bottle filled, and I will be back and we will start finish welding this thing. All right, guys, so we are finally getting ready to set the last sheet for the deck on. I went ahead and made some braces this morning. Dad had an idea. He seen this beam here behind our beam, so we went ahead and added a piece of angle iron here that rests on this, which supports it very well. And then these ones we just welded into that beam as well. And I'm glad that we did. It stiffened that one right up. And we're figuring that the tire, the front tire of the car for the Charger anyway, should land right about there. The GTO we can make land in the same spot. So we wanted to add extra reinforcement there since we can. Honestly, I kind of wish that we could do something like that for the rest of them, or at least back where the rear tires are gonna land. But there's just no other beams that close. I think it's going to be fine regardless. We welded these things all the way around pretty good, and once the sheet gets welded on there, it stiffens everything right up. So we're going to go ahead and set our last sheet for the deck on, get it tacked underneath to all of our braces, and then work right to the front. Ow. Oh, you all right? Push it down. We have gotten everything pretty much finished welded in underneath. I'm gonna add, I think, one more right about here underneath to our beam, and then the same on that side. Other than that, we've got this thing pretty secured down to our beams that we added. Did that with all the sheets, and then once we get done tacking those front two corners there, we're gonna go along and finish weld everything like we did here and back here. We do the sides and everything. Might be a little bit of overkill, but I'd rather have it solid. You can definitely tell a difference when you walk on the sheets, which ones are fully welded and which ones are just welded underneath. So I like having it as rigid as possible. So we're gonna get set up here. We're gonna be trying out a new mask today. Picked this up at our local welding supply. Pretty cheap mask. I've been having issues with my Miller, so we figured we'd give that one a try. We got some new batteries coming for this one. We'll try that one out and see what we think of it. But let's go ahead and get set up and get to work. Last night, I went ahead and cut 12 of these little 4-inch pieces of angle iron here. Used the bandsaw and made 12 of those. We're gonna go ahead and place those underneath on our support beams that go across here. You can see where we welded to it. And we're gonna put them basically between that and the beams that are here from the factory. They are lower and they were meant for the wood that was here originally. So what we're gonna do is take it and set them up in like that against the beam, weld it up so that it's basically bracing the bottom of this floor. We're only going to do a couple of them on each beam. We're going to do one about where the tire lands on each side, and then one in the center. Probably don't need it, it's probably overkill, but I'd rather have this thing stronger than we need. So I'm going to go ahead and get under there and start welding these things up. All right guys, figured I'd show you real quick. So that's basically what we're doing with those pieces of angle iron I cut. This one we have turned sideways just because it fit in there pretty snug on its own. But all the other ones all the way forward, we're probably going to do more like that, so that the two legs are up against this, and then we'll just weld them here, and then probably just tack them on the top to the deck. So we've got quite a few of those to do, so I'm going to go ahead and start welding them up. Alright guys, so we had a little bit of a change of plans here. Originally, we were going to be using this stuff here as the undercoating underneath the trailer, but while I was working on something else, Pops went underneath and started spraying with a can of this stuff. I thought it was going to be more of a thicker, like rubberized coating, and when he went under and used up a whole can, he literally only got a section done from like about here to maybe here, and we just weren't happy with how it was covering. It comes out pretty thin, and also it just wasn't the finish or protection that we were looking for, and we would have also burned through probably 50 cans on this trailer. So instead, we decided to take a ride over to West Springfield Auto Parts and talk to the guys over there, and they hooked us up with this stuff. It's Transtar. It's a rubberized undercoating, and the way we're going to be using it is with one of these little spray guns. It's meant for the rubberized coatings, so we're going to give that a try. We're going to get all set up here and hopefully get the underneath of this thing sprayed. Alright guys, so it's been a couple days since I've had a chance to work on this thing, but we came out here this morning and I went ahead and grabbed the wire wheel. We had some surface rust going on here because we had a couple days where it rained. We did have it covered, but where we welded and stuff, you can see it started to rust. So I went ahead and hit this whole one with a wire wheel quick on the grinder. And then I took some self-etching primer we had and just hit the weld seams quick, just in case I didn't get around to finishing up what I wanted to do today. So next, I think what we're gonna do is go ahead and hit this section here with a wire wheel, and then keep working our way up. We'll get both the grinders out with wire wheels on them and try to get all the way up to here done so that we can start spraying the bed on this thing. This morning we did go ahead and start doing some undercoating. See if I can give you guys a peek. I think I might have showed you guys the stuff that we decided to use. Came out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. Stuff sprays on pretty heavy. It was called that Transtar rubberized undercoating, but I think it worked pretty good. Let me grab a light real quick and I'll show you guys what it looks like underneath. All right, so I'll give you guys a quick peek underneath here. It goes on pretty heavy. Not sure how good you guys can see it, but I'll take you under there after and show you what we came up with. Came out pretty good, but I think we're gonna go ahead and set up the grinders and start grinding on the top deck here so that we can at least get a coat on that, and then it won't be as big of a rush to get the gloss black and the actual spray gun set up, because we want to do some patchwork on the fender here. You can see there's a rust hole right here we didn't notice, so we might patch this whole little section, clean up inside the wheel wells so that we can undercoat that. And then, like I had mentioned before, we're gonna end up prepping all the sides of the trailers, the fenders, all that good stuff, and go ahead and hit it with an actual gloss black. I think it'll look really nice, especially once we get rid of the decals that are here and the pinstriping. We're gonna end up doing some yellow lettering to match the cars, so I think that'll be pretty cool. So we're gonna go ahead and start taping up for this deck and get this thing banged out. All right guys, so we just got done with the wire wheel. This thing is pretty much as prepped as we're gonna get it. I think we're gonna go ahead and start spraying it. I did a little test area here with the bed liner that we're gonna use. It's like a sandpaper texture. It's actually this stuff right here. I've used it on a bunch of different things, like the subframe on the yellow GTO, and I like the texture of it and I like how it comes out. It's like a non-skid finish, so I think we're gonna go ahead and use that. We're gonna spray pretty much from here up for now, because this already has the black powder coating or paint on it from the factory. So I want to make sure that we have enough in spray cans to at least get a coat on the whole deck, and then if we have enough, we'll get a coat on here. But I'm kind of having a feeling that we're going to burn through quite a bit of this stuff, which if that's the case, we will get a gallon of it in like a normal paint container, and then we'll thin it ourselves and put it into a spray gun and spray it that way. But we're gonna see how it goes. If it goes pretty decent, then we might just get some more cans. If not, we'll get it the other way and let this stuff cure for at least 24 hours and hit it again. So I'm gonna set you guys up and we'll get this thing sprayed. All right guys, so as you seen last night or yesterday afternoon, we went ahead and got a coat on the whole deck of the trailer. I think it came out pretty damn good, honestly. I really like the finish, and it's got that like sandpaper type texture to it. Not super aggressive where it's gonna like rip your skin up, but aggressive enough where I think the tires and your shoes and stuff like that will get enough traction when it's wet where you're not gonna slip. So I really like that. We are gonna do a second coat on it. We used spray cans. You guys might have seen in the video clips there, I was having some issues. I had a couple of those cans on the shelf for a while, so I was trying to fight with them to get them to spray properly. They didn't want to spray right when you held them straight up and down, so I was like trying sideways and stuff. We got it to work though. and it actually took a lot less cans than I thought it was going to do the whole deck. I think we were into it for maybe 5 cans or so, and that's including the cans that we were having issues with, but I think it came out pretty good. We sprayed like this way coming towards the front, so I think when we go ahead and do our second coat, we'll turn around and do it the opposite way and make sure that we get the back sides of all these diamond plate. But it actually looks like it covered pretty good, so like I said, super happy with it. But I think we're going to change directions here for a few minutes and go ahead and get our final deck piece, like our trim plate that we're going to use up here, done. We're going to use a piece of 3-inch flat, and we're going to go ahead and basically butt it up here and weld it to this, and then we're going to build this up a little bit and weld it here, and then obviously clean up where it's going to land and weld solid across, just like we did with all of these sheets. And I think it's going to work really well as a final like trim piece to hide any type of imperfection or anything like that. So that's what we're going to go ahead and start working on now. Alright guys, so you've seen a second ago a clip of the bandsaw. We got our piece cut here. Now we're just setting it in, so now you can kind of see what we were doing with it. Sorry, there's a street sweeper going by, but you can kind of see what we were doing with it. I laid a weld here to try to raise that up to compensate for the thickness of this plate, but we're gonna set that in there kind of like that, and then weld all along this seam, and I'll weld it all along here afterwards. But obviously first we're gonna go through and get it all tacked so it's nice and true and flush. But I think it's gonna work good as a trim piece because it'll make everything look like it's perfectly square. So we're gonna go ahead and set that up and get that thing welded on. Alright guys, so I just went ahead and did the last 2 major welds. Got that trim panel welded on there. They came out pretty good. Pretty happy with it. Still super impressed with that little titanium welder. I mean, I'd have to guess we got every bit of 1,000 plus, maybe even between 1,000 and 1,500 inches of weld on this thing, and it's just kicking ass. So we're gonna go ahead and hit this with the wire wheel real quick, and then we will go ahead and put a coat of paint on it, and then we'll hit the whole deck with our second coat and get this thing wrapped up. Alright guys, so as you had seen in the last couple clips, we've got a couple coats of the truck bed liner on the trailer deck here. We ended up using the rattle cans, which you guys had seen, but because we are doing a rock shield or windshield for the front of the trailer here to help protect the cars a whole bunch, we decided to also go ahead and pick up a gallon instead, because this way we can go ahead and use this to do a couple coats on the windshield, but then also final coat on the deck will be with this as well. We're going to be spraying it through a paint spray gun with the compressor. So I think that'll work out really well. If you guys are going to be doing this project at home, or really any project that involves this Rust-Oleum truck bed liner, I would definitely recommend picking it up in a gallon instead of getting spray cans. Spray cans for us anyways around here are between $13 and $18 a piece, and we used quite a bit of them to get this project done, and it also didn't spray as even as I would have liked. This gallon here you can get at a bunch of local places as well, but be careful because our local AutoZone wants $104 for this same exact gallon, and we were able to get it from Walmart, same exact stuff, for $54. That's literally half the price, so make sure to be aware of that if you guys are going to be using it. But all in all, I think this project was super successful. We've still got some other things left to finish up as far as finishing the trailer all together goes. We're going to add a battery, the rock and windshield, finishing up some stuff with the fenders, just a few little things. But as far as the deck goes, it is pretty much wrapped up. We got it undercoated like you guys had seen, which I think is a huge bonus, help protect it up here in New England. But all in all, I really think the deck itself came out really nice. I got to practice a bunch of my welding and put a bunch of time in on that, as well as put some time in on that little titanium MiG 170. I think it looks way better than the wood, and I also think it's going to last a lot longer, a lot more trouble-free years of use with this thing. So also guys, the GTO is getting ready for tuning. We've been working on that the last couple days on and off, doing some little things that the tuner wanted, like putting an intake air temp sensor in the intake manifold, getting a different map sensor for them. We also ordered a GripTech 2.7 pulley for that Pro Charger, so that thing's going to be screaming. We're going to be turning this thing way up here pretty soon, so make sure to stick around for that, as well as the Hellcat should be coming home over the next couple weeks. I know I might have mentioned that before, but we've been getting hung up with part shortages and just parts in general, waiting on parts. We were waiting on the machine shop for what seemed like forever, and then we were waiting on parts. So we finally got everything they need to get this thing back together, and then that thing will be getting on the dyno, and then we'll be able to get it out to some events and have some fun with it. As always guys, thanks for checking out the channel. Please think about subscribing and ringing the bell to stay up to date on all of that stuff and see what projects we're going to be working on next, and we will catch you on the next one.